Hi YouTube. So what I'm going to be dealing with today is a 2014 Subaru WRX STi that has a problem with the E85 fueling system. So this car has a Cobb E85 flex fuel map and hardware installed so that it can sense how much ethanol is in fuel and then run a different map to give you extra power. So you probably know that ethanol has a higher octane rating. It's also cheaper, which is nice as well. But I get an extra bump in horsepower by running E85 on this car. And so that was always the plan when I got this, was I was going to do the E85 tune. However, that was quite a long time ago at this point, and I'm starting to have issues with possibly just wear and tear on the parts and the items that actually feed off the ethanol. And Cobb cannot help me fix this now. So Cobb refuses to deal with anyone that has any of the older Cobb stuff because I think the story goes that they got sued for kind of like allowing people to put modified parts on their car that would um, overcome emission standards. And so I think as far as I know, understand the story, they settled, but they're not allowed to provide the same parts that they used to. So if you have an older Cobb system, maybe you've done something like had the TGVs removed and had it tuned and stuff like that. I don't think you can get any help from that anymore. So that applies to me. I have the E85 fuel sensor and the package that comes with that, and I can't actually get any help repairing it. Thankfully, there's a solution. So I have bought a new ethanol sensor from IBR and the new controller. I have a suspicion that the issue is the controller, but I'm not 100% sure. The reason I think that is because I have read people replacing ethanol sensors and still having the same issue. And so that makes me think it's not the actual sensor itself. It was an intermittent issue that this originally started as, and that's kind of weird for a sensor to give intermittent issues. I mean, maybe not completely out of the realms of possibility, but it seemed to me that it was maybe more of a wiring issue. Because I would have issues where the engine check light was off, the car was fine, it was reading 75% ethanol, which was pretty accurate for what was in the tank, because I've been running ethanol for a while. And then I would turn the steering wheel, and then all of a sudden it would throw an engine check light, but I'd look at the sensor, and the sensor was still reading the same value. That kind of suggested to me that it was an intermittent issue where the car was getting the correct ethanol sense signal, but it was like maybe breaking up, and the computer wasn't getting the signal as fast as it wanted it, so maybe not as frequently as it wanted it. So I'm hoping that replacing these parts gets me back to being able to run E85 without engine check light coming on all the time. Now, I'll also mention that this issue has got worse in the year that I've been dealing with it. It gets worse when the temperature goes up. So if the car is hot, temperature is hot outside, it seems to be more of an issue. So during the summer, it's July. It is currently 95 degrees in my garage. And so I've been getting a lot more issues with it more recently. And so it's time to make that change and install the new parts. So today we're going to go over installing those new parts, and first thing is going to be getting it up on some ramps. I don't need to do that to be able to get to the sensor because that's under the hood, but I do want to check a grounding cable underneath the car to make sure the grounding cable is good, because I have heard that if the grounding cable has gone bad, that can be something that could cause these products to fail. And I dropped about $550 into these new parts, so don't want to wreck them and void the warranty by just not checking to make sure I don't have good grounding cables around the car. So that's what we're going to do next. So we'll do that now. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is drain some of the fuel out of the fuel lines by running the engine with the fuel pump cut off. So the way to do that is to open up the fuels box, which is located right in front of the driver's seat. and you're going to look for a fuse that says fuel pump. And for me, that is the bottom right hand corner of the rectangular part at the top. So there's like a rectangle of fuses, and then there's a triangle below that. It's the bottom right hand corner of the rectangle, and it is a 15 amp fuse. So I'm just going to use some little pliers to pop that out, put it to one side, and then I'm going to go and start the car. I'm not going to show you that bit because it'll be pretty boring, but what's going to happen is cut off the fuel supply to the engine and just let it stall out. So let's do that now. Okay, here's the old ethanol sensor mounted to the wall behind the battery. I'm going to pull off the electrical connector. There are some tools to help remove fuel lines, which I don't have, so I used a pair of clamps to just pry down on the blue and then pull it back. I have got a rag underneath to catch the fuel that comes flying out. Hopefully there's not too much, just a bit of a drip. And we're going to have to do the same on the other side. I'm actually going to have to mount this upwards because I'm not really sure if that's fuel pressure that's pushing that out or just gravity. Fuel pressure I can fix. Well, I did fix. Fuel gravity, not so easy. Okay, that'll work. All right. So there's probably a better tool for the job here. And I don't plan on changing the fuel lines. That's because this is a car that already has this system installed. Ideally, I just want to change the electronic components that failed, not the actual fuel lines. I'm sure it's better to replace the fuel lines with nice, shiny new ones, especially given that I've got them. But that's more work than I really feel is necessary for this job of just swapping out. What I was paying for when I bought the kit was the sensors and the control system. I didn't really care about the unless I mangle this, in which case mangling it because I don't have the right tools for the job is going to result in me needing to put in new fuel lines. I'm kind of hoping that I don't do that. Doesn't help that I've got all these wires around here. I had to move the battery terminal out of the way just so you could see anything that I was working on here. Just when you think you've got it, it doesn't quite come off. Okay, I got it. Great. Job done. Well, at least that job. Old sensor. New sensor. Now I'm actually going to have to take these blue bits off my old one and put those onto the new one, I think. Either that or I have to replace the lines. But I'm kind of hoping I can remove these things if it's at all possible and then just stick them on there. Yep, I think it is. I think it's just a case of pulling back these these blue plastic tabs from over the lip and then putting them over the lip of these and then putting them on there in the same way that they are on here and then swapping them out. All right, and then the next bit is going to be following these cables down, and that bit's going to be from underneath, so I'll see you under the car. Actually, before I get under the car, I'm going to finish off what I was doing here so that I can get this new sensor on and stop the fumes getting out. So I found that if I just stick a screwdriver underneath here, I can pry these little blue clips off. So just pushing the tab out on one side and then pushing the tab out on the other side. Of course, when I'm doing it and filming it, it's harder, but there we go. Blue tab off. And then it should just be a case of swapping these blue tabs onto here. And then, hopefully I got this the right way around. Pretty sure I did. Actually, not really sure it makes much difference, to be honest, but all right. Tab on there, and then this was the first one that I took off, which was closest to me. All right, new one hooked up. So those should be pressure fitted now so that they should be good to go. Then it's just going to be a case of using the bolt that I used to get it off, mounting it back down here where no one can see it, and we should be good to go. So let's deal with the next bit, which is finding the ends of these wires and replacing the plugs with these new ones so I can get the new thing on, and that should be the end of it. So one of the cables that comes down is this one right here. It is directly above the steering joint and comes down to that red plate, which we know on my car is red, but that's a TGV delete plate. So behind it is the plug I need. So one of the 3 plugs goes into that one. Now, I mentioned earlier that there was one that I wasn't quite sure about, and that was dumb of me to say because one of them is clearly the plug that goes into the ethanol sensor. And so the other one goes in there. And so that plug there will be replaced by this new one. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to replace that plug now and then do the one that goes into the ethanol sensor, and hopefully we're all good. Okay, so everything's wired up now, should be good. Just going to pop the battery back in again and start it up. There is one little mystery here, which is that the cob controller that was removed has more plugs than the one that I put in, and I didn't spot that earlier. So this is the one that was going into the ethanol sensor, and then this was the one that was going down underneath the engine that I showed you over, that was above the steering rack, and that one was going into what was previously a TGV plug, and that's what this is. So this is the old one. This one came out. This one came out. This one was always blank, and that would have been the end of the story, except there's this very long cable, and that went all the way down to the oxygen sensor. So clearly the cob system was actually monitoring the oxygen sensor as well. Not quite sure. Like, this is actually oxygen sensor in and oxygen sensor cable out. So it basically is reading the same signal as the car's oxygen sensor. So hopefully this will still work without it. But honestly, at this point, I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to give this a shot, put the battery back in. This little guy here is not bolted in yet, but the plug is right here. I can't pull it up because it's not long enough, but that's going to get attached, and then we'll see where we are. All right, now it's time to see what happens. So we're going to give the car a start and see if we have any engine check lights, and we're also going to read the ethanol sensor input. That would be because my fuel pump is not primed, but the fuse is in, so we'll give it a little bit of time. That sounds good. All right, no engine check lights. Let's read the gauge that tells me my ethanol input. Previously it was reading 10, which is probably the default for meaning like nothing. And now it's reading the top right hand number, 74.7 or 74.4. That's pretty much what I would expect it to be. So on the surface, this looks like it's done the job. Car's running a bit, like idling a bit weird, but has done that in the past. So we'll see how it goes. But so far, job done, and I'll put down in the comments if I have any issues. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps with someone that has the interestingly unique issue of having a 2014 STi with an ethanol and jet kit that failed and had to install a new ethanol and jet kit.